What does it mean to hold a light that burns, to cradle a flame that is not yours, yet sears your hands with every step in the heart of Middle-earth, where the roots of mountains whisper and the stars sing of forgotten oaths? There is a question older than the stones. Was the fall of Númenor foretold, not in the words of prophets or the scrolls of kings, but in the silence of the heart where fear and longing meet, where the soul trembles before its own desires? This is no tale of triumph or defeat, but a meditation on the weight of gifts, the shadow of pride and the fleeting hope that lingers when all else fades. Long ago, before the seas swallowed the star of the west, there was a land called Númenor, blessed beyond mortal reckoning, a gift from the Valar, those powers who shaped the world under Ilúvatar's song. It rose from the waves like a dream of eternity. Its shores gleamed with silver sands, its hills bloomed with colors no painter could capture, and its people, the Dúnedain, were tall and fair, their eyes alight with the wisdom of those who had seen the light of Valinor. They were not elves immortal and unbound by time, nor were they men as we know them, frail and fleeting. They were a bridge between worlds, granted long life strength and a kinship with the divine. But every gift carries a shadow, and every light casts a darkness where the heart may wander. Imagine standing upon the cliffs of Númenor, the wind carrying the scent of salt and starlight. The sea stretches before you, endless its waves, chanting secrets older than the world. Above, the stars burn with a clarity that pierces the soul, and among them shines Amandil, the mariner who bore a Silmaril into the heavens, a light that defies the dark. The Númenorians looked to that star, and in its glow they saw not only hope, but a question. What does it mean to be mortal in a world touched by the eternal? Their hearts, though strong, were not untroubled, for even in their glory they heard the whisper of time, the soft tread of mortality that no gift could silence. This is where our tale begins, not with the fall, but with the rising. For to understand the ruin of Númenor, we must first walk its golden streets, stand beneath its towers, and listen to the songs of its people. They were a people of the sea, their ships swift as the wind, their sails catching the light of dawn. They sailed to Middle-earth, not as conquerors, but as teachers, bearing knowledge and craft to those who dwelt in shadow. Their kings descended from Elros, brother of Elrond, ruled with wisdom, and their halls echoed with music that seemed to hold the memory of the two trees of Valinor, whose light was lost to the world. Yet even in this paradise there was a silence, a stillness beneath the laughter, a question unspoken. The ban of the Valar hung over them, a decree that forbade them from sailing west to the undying lands. Seek not the shores of Aman, the Valar had said, for that path is not for mortal feet. Your gift is life long and full, but not unending. To the Númenorians this was no mere law, but a wound, a reminder that their light, though bright, would one day dim. They could see the stars, but not touch them. They could dream of eternity, but not claim it. And in that silence, the first seed of discontent took root. What is temptation, if not the voice that speaks? When all else is quiet, it does not shout or rage. It whispers soft as a lover, persistent as the tide. For the Númenorians, temptation came not as a serpent or a shadow, but as a longing for what was forbidden. They asked, why should we who are mighty be bound by limits? Why should we who are wise be denied the light of the immortals? Their ships sailed ever eastward, their cities grew ever grander, but their eyes turned west toward the horizon they could not cross, and in that gaze they began to forget the truth of their gift, that mortality is not a curse but a song with an end, beautiful because it does not linger. Consider the heart of a Númenorian king, standing in the great hall of Armanelos, the golden city. His crown is heavy with jewels, his lineage traced to the heroes of the First Age. Before him the White Tree Nimloth blooms in the courtyard, its petals a memory of Telperion, the silver tree of Valinor. Yet as he looks upon it he feels not awe but unrest. The tree is a symbol of his people's bond with the divine, but it is also a mirror reflecting the brevity of his reign, the fragility of his line. He wonders, is this all we are meant to be, a people who shine then fade? The silence grows louder, and in it he hears the first stirrings of pride. Pride is a flame that warms before it burns. It begins as love for one's people, one's legacy, one's name. The Númenóreans loved their land, their craft, their strength. They built towers that seemed to touch the heavens, ships that laughed at the storms. They forged blades that gleamed like starlight, and their songs carried the weight of ages. But love unchecked becomes hunger. Pride unmoored becomes defiance. They began to measure their worth not by the light they carried, but by the light they could not have. And so the shadow grew not as a force from without, but as a choice from within. Let us pause here not to judge, but to listen. For the story of Númenor is not a tale of villains and heroes, but of human hearts caught in the tide of their own desires. Who among us has not felt the ache of longing? Who has not stood at the edge of what is permitted and wondered what lies beyond? The Númenóreans were not weak, they were mighty. They were not foolish, they were wise, yet wisdom and strength are no shield against the heart's quiet rebellion. To hold a gift is to bear its weight, and to bear its weight is to know the temptation to cast it aside for something greater. In the early days, the shadow was but a whisper. The kings of Númenor still honored, the Valar still offered thanks beneath the White Tree. Their people still sang of Amandil and the light that pierced the dark. But whispers grow, the silence deepened, and with it came fear not of death, but of insignificance. What is a life, even a long one, if it ends in shadow? What is a legacy if it crumbles to dust? The Númenóreans began to build not for joy, but for permanence. Their towers reached higher, their tombs grew grander, as if stone could defy time. They sought to etch their names into the world, to make their light eternal. But eternity is not a thing to be grasped, it is a gift to be received. Imagine a child of Númenor born in the days when the shadow first stirred. She runs through the fields, her laughter mingling with the wind. She knows the stories of her people, the Silmarils, the wars against Morgoth, the gift of the island. She looks to the sea and dreams of sailing not west but east, to lands where her name might be sung. Yet as she grows, she hears the murmurs of the elders' tales of a land beyond the waves, a place where death is unknown. She sees the eyes of her father turn westward, not with wonder but with hunger, and in her heart a question forms, why are we forbidden what others possess? The seed of doubt once planted does not wither. This is the tragedy of Númenor, not that they fell, but that they rose so high before they did. Their light was not dim but radiant. Their hearts were not cruel but full. Yet fullness can breed restlessness, and radiance can blind. The Valar had given them a land of beauty, a life of centuries, a purpose to carry light to the world. But gifts are not owned, they are entrusted. To hold them tightly is to lose them, for the hand that clenches cannot receive. The Númenóreans began to see their mortality not as a melody, but as a chain, and in that seeing they turned from the light they were given to the light they could not have. Let us walk now to the heart of Ar-Pharazôn, where the white tree stands in silent witness. Its branches sway in the breeze, its petals fall like tears. The kings who once knelt before it now stand tall, their crowns gleaming, their hearts heavy. The people gather, their voices raised in song, but the harmony is strained. There is a note of discord, faint but growing like a crack in a crystal goblet. The ban of the Valar, once a sacred boundary, is now a shackle. The sea, once a path to adventure, is now a wall. And in the silence between the songs, a new voice speaks not of gratitude, but of entitlement. What is faith, if not the choice to trust? When the path is unseen, the Númenóreans had faith once in the Valar, in Ilúvatar, in the purpose of their lives. They believed their island was a gift, their long years a blessing. But faith is not a flame that burns without tending. It requires silence, humility, the willingness to kneel before what is greater. As the centuries passed, the Númenóreans grew mighty, and in their might they forgot to kneel. They forgot the song of Ilúvatar, the music that wove the world. They forgot that their light, though bright, was borrowed. Consider the mariner who sails the seas of Númenor, his ship cutting through waves that glitter like stars. He has seen the shores of Middle-earth shared wisdom, with its peoples returned with tales of wonder. Yet as he stands at the helm, his eyes drift west. He knows the Ban knows the tales of Aman, the land where the Valar dwell in light unending. He wonders, why am I denied what lies so close? The stars above him shine, but they seem to mock his mortal heart. He does not yet rebel, but he questions, and in that question the shadow finds a foothold. The shadow is not Sauron, not yet. It is not a foe that can be fought with swords or banished with words. It is the shadow within the doubt that whispers the pride that stirs the fear that lingers. The Númenóreans were not seduced by evil. They were seduced by their own greatness. They looked upon their works, their cities, their ships, their lore, and saw not gifts, but rights. They looked upon their lives long, but not endless, and saw not blessings, but limits. And in that seeing they began to turn from the light of faith to the fire of ambition. Let us linger here in the moment before the fall. The white tree still blooms, the stars still shine, the songs still rise. Númenor is a land of glory, its people, a beacon to the world. Yet the silence grows, and in it the heart of the island trembles. The question remains, was the fall foretold? Not in the stars, nor in the waves, nor in the words of the Valar. It was foretold in the heart, where every choice is born. To hold a light is to bear its weight. To bear its weight is to face its temptation. And to face its temptation is to choose between the song that fades and the fire that consumes. This is not the end, but the beginning. The tale of Númenor is a mirror, reflecting not only the past, but the eternal. What does it mean to be given a gift? To stand in the light yet long for more. The waves of the sea chant their answer. The stars whisper their truth. But the heart must listen. And so we pause here in the golden dawn of Númenor, knowing that the shadow waits not as a foe, but as a choice. The light burns, the silence deepens, and the story continues. What does it mean to hear a voice in the silence? Not a song of joy, nor a cry of warning, but a whisper that knows your name, that speaks your deepest fears, and calls them truth. In the heart of Númenor, where the white tree sways, and the sea chants its endless hymn, the light still burns, but its edges fray. The stars above shine as they ever did, yet their glow feels distant, as if veiled by a mist no eye can pierce. Was the fall of Númenor foretold? Not in the clash of swords or the breaking of oaths, but in the moment when the heart turns from gratitude to grasping, when the gift becomes a chain, and the silence becomes a stage for shadows. The golden age of Númenor lingers, its towers gleaming, its ships dancing upon the waves. The Dúnedain, blessed with long life and wisdom, still walk the earth, as giants among men, their eyes alight with the memory of Valinor's grace. Yet beneath the surface, where the roots of the heart twist and turn, a restlessness grows. The ban of the Valar, that sacred boundary forbidding the westward sail, is no longer a decree to be honored, but a wound to be probed. The sea, once a path to glory, now mocks with its forbidden horizon. And in the quiet of the night, when the songs of the harps fade, a new voice rises not from without, but from within. Imagine standing in the great hall of Armanelos, the golden city, at Númenor's heart. The air is heavy with the scent of cedar and myrrh, the walls adorned with tapestries that tell of Elros, the first king and the heroes of the First Age. Before you, the White Tree Nimloth stands in the courtyard, its silver petals catching the light of the moon. The king, crowned with starlight, gazes upon it, but his eyes are troubled. Once he saw in the tree a symbol of divine favor, a bridge to the light of the Valar. Now he sees a reminder of what he cannot have, eternity unbound by the shadow of death. The silence around him grows, and in it he hears a question: why should the mighty be denied? This is the shadow's hour, not yet a storm, but a breeze that chills the soul. It does not come as Morgoth came with fire and ruin, nor as a foe to be met with steel. It comes as doubt, as desire, as the slow erosion of faith. The Númenóreans in their strength have built a paradise, but paradise is fragile when the heart forgets its source. They look to the stars, to Arundil's Silmaril blazing in the heavens, and they no longer see hope. They see a light they cannot touch, a glory they cannot claim, and in that seeing the whisper grows louder: you are worthy of more, you are bound by no decree. Let us walk the streets of Númenor in this twilight hour, where the laughter of children still echoes, but the songs of the elders carry a strain of longing. The markets brim with treasures from Middle-earth, spices, silks, jewels, but the merchant's eyes drift westward to the sea that promises more. The shipwrights craft vessels of unmatched beauty, their prows carved with the likeness of swans, but they dream of sails that might defy the ban. The scholars in their halls of lore study the tales of the Eldar, but their questions turn from wisdom to power. Why should immortality be theirs alone? The heart of Númenor beats strong, but its rhythm falters. Consider the mariner, weathered by countless voyages, standing at the edge of Andunia, the westernmost haven. His hands, calloused from rope and oar, have guided ships through storms and brought light to distant shores. He has seen the peoples of Middle-earth rise under Númenor's teaching, their fires kindled by the Dúnedain's gifts. Yet as he gazes at the sea, his heart is heavy. The ban of the Valar is a wall he cannot cross, a law he cannot question. He thinks of Amand, the undying lands where the Valar dwell in light unending. He thinks of his sons who will inherit his strength, but also his limits. And in the silence the whisper speaks: why should you bow to those who deny you? Temptation is not a sudden flame, but a spark that smolders. It begins in the quiet moments when the soul is alone with its desires. For the Númenóreans, it began as love for their land, their people, their legacy. They loved the beauty of their island, the strength of their bodies, the wisdom of their minds. But love, when it turns inward, becomes pride. Pride, when it festers, becomes defiance. The Númenóreans began to measure their worth not by the light they carried, but by the light they were denied. They looked to the Valar, once their benefactors, and saw not guardians but gatekeepers. They looked to Ilúvatar, the One, and wondered why his gifts came with chains. The kings of Númenor in their golden halls felt this shift most keenly. Each bore the scepter of Elros, each traced their blood to the heroes who fought Morgoth. Yet as the centuries passed, their crowns grew heavier, their hearts more restless. They built tombs grander than their palaces, as if stone could defy the grave. They raised statues to their names, as if marble could outlast time. They sailed to Middle-earth, not as teachers now, but as lords, demanding tribute from those they once uplifted. The white tree still bloomed, but its petals fell unheeded, and the songs sung in its shadow spoke less of faith and more of glory. Let us pause here not to condemn, but to listen. For the Númenóreans were not villains, nor were they weak. They were a people of light, their hearts full of dreams, their hands skilled in creation. Yet dreams unchecked become hungers, and creation untempered becomes dominion. Who among us has not felt the pull of greatness? Who has not looked upon their works and wished them eternal? The Númenóreans stood at the pinnacle of mortal achievement. Yet they could not silence the whisper that said, "It is not enough. To be mighty is not enough. To be wise is not enough. To be mortal is not enough." In this hour the shadow finds its voice not as a stranger, but as a friend. It speaks in the council chambers where lords debate the future of their people. It speaks in the temples where offerings to Ilúvatar grow cold. It speaks in the hearts of the young who hear tales of the Eldar and wonder why their lives must end. The whisper is not yet rebellion, not yet treason, but it is a turning. The Númenóreans begin to see the ban not as a sacred trust, but as an injustice. They begin to see their mortality not as a gift, but as a theft. And in that turning, the light they were given begins to dim. Imagine a mother in Romena, the eastern port, weaving a tapestry for her daughter's coming of age. Her fingers are deft, her patterns intricate, telling of the sea and the stars. She sings as she works a song of Amandil, the mariner who became a star. Yet as she sings, her voice falters. She thinks of her daughter who will grow tall and fair, but who will one day fade. She thinks of the tales she has heard of Aman, where the trees never wither, where the light never fails. She does not speak her thoughts, but they linger heavy as the thread in her hands. Why must we die when others live forever? The whisper is hers now, and it will not be silenced. Faith is a flame that requires tending, a song that requires singing. The Númenóreans once sang of Ilúvatar, of the Valar, of the purpose woven into their lives. They knelt beneath the white tree, offering thanks for the island that rose from the sea, for the years that stretched long and full. But faith is not a monument to be built and forgotten. It is a choice renewed in every silence. As the Númenóreans grew mighty, they forgot to choose. They forgot to kneel. They forgot the song that gave them life. And in their forgetting, the whisper grew into a chorus. The chorus speaks of power, of eternity, of a destiny unbound by limits. It speaks in the shipyards where new fleets rise, their sails bold, their prows defiant. It speaks in the forges where blades are crafted not for defense, but for conquest. It speaks in the hearts of the kings who no longer look to the white tree, but to the sea to the west, where the light of Aman glows. The Númenóreans are not yet fallen, but they are falling not to a foe, but to themselves. The shadow is not a force that strikes, it is a choice that seduces. Let us stand now at the edge of Númenor, where the cliffs meet the sea. The waves crash below their rhythm, unchanging, their voice eternal. Above, the stars burn, and Arundil's light cuts through the dark. The white tree sways in the distance, its petals falling like tears. The people of Númenor are still a light to the world. Their ships still sail, their songs still rise. Yet the silence is louder now, and in it the whisper becomes a call. Why should you be less than the immortals? Why should you bow to those who limit you? The heart of Númenor trembles not with fear, but with desire. This is the moment of turning the hour, when the gift becomes a burden, when the light becomes a chain. The Númenóreans are not yet lost, but they are losing. They are losing the faith that sustained them, the gratitude that defined them, the silence that kept them whole. The question lingers, was the fall foretold, not in the stars, nor in the sea, nor in the decrees? The Valar. It was foretold in the heart, where every whisper is heard, where every choice is made. To hold a light is to face its shadow. To face its shadow is to choose between the song that sings of trust and the call that promises power. The tale does not end here, but deepens. The shadow grows, the whisper becomes a voice, and the heart of Númenor stands at a crossroads. The sea chants, the stars watch, and the white tree waits. What does it mean to be mortal in a world of light? The answer lies not in the west, but within. And so we linger here in the twilight of Númenor, knowing that the choice is coming not as a battle, but as a reckoning. The light fades, the silence speaks, and the story continues. What does it mean to listen when the silence breaks, when the whisper that once stirred in the heart becomes a voice clear and commanding, promising not only answers but dominion? In the heart of Númenor, where the white tree's petals fall like omens, and the sea roars with restless hunger, The light flickers, its warmth contested by a growing chill. The stars still burn above, but their song is faint, drowned by a new melody, one that speaks of glory, of eternity, of a world reshaped by mortal hands. Was the fall of Númenor foretold, not in the decrees of the Valar or the tides of the sea, but in the moment when the heart chooses to follow a voice that is not its own, when the light entrusted becomes a flame to wield? The golden age of Númenor is a memory now, though its towers still stand, their spires piercing the heavens. The Undone, once bearers of wisdom and light, walk with pride that borders on defiance, their eyes no longer lifted in gratitude, but narrowed in ambition. The ban of the Valar forbidding the westward sail to Aman is no longer a sacred boundary, but a chain to be broken. The White Tree Nimloth blooms in the courtyard of Armanelos, but its roots feel the tremor of a land divided. The whisper that stirred in the silence has grown into a call, and into this call steps a shadow, not as a conqueror, but as a counselor bearing a name that will echo through the ages: Sauron. Imagine standing upon the shores of Númenor, the salt-laden wind weaving through your hair. The sea before you is vast, its waves carrying tales of Middle-earth, where a darkness once fell and now rises again. The ships of Númenor return from their voyages no longer as emissaries of light, but as lords of dominion, their holds heavy with tribute. The people gather, their voices raised in songs of triumph, but the harmony is fractured. Into this moment comes a stranger brought in chains, yet unbowed, his eyes gleaming with a fire that is neither starlight nor flame. Sauron, the servant of Morgoth, the deceiver of old, stands before the king, and his voice is a song that Númenor cannot unhear. This is the hour when the shadow takes form, not as a storm that breaks the land, but as a melody that bends the heart. Sauron does not come with armies or fire. He comes with words smooth as silk, sharp as steel. He speaks to the Númenorians of their greatness, of their right to more than mortal limits. You are the heirs of the West, he says, born to rule, not to kneel. Why should you bow to the Valar, who hoard their light? Why should you fear the sea when it is yours to command? His voice is not a command but an invitation, and the heart of Númenor, already turned toward desire, listens. Let us walk now to the golden hall of Armanelos, where King Ar-Pharazôn, the mightiest of the Dunedain, sits upon his throne. His crown is a blaze of jewels, his scepter a relic of Elros, but his heart is heavy with the weight of his own legend. Before him stands Sauron, clad in humility, his chains a mockery of his power, the king whose fleets have subdued Middle-earth, whose name is sung in every port, sees in this prisoner not a foe, but a mirror. Sauron speaks, and his words are a fire that kindles the king's pride. You are no less than the gods, he whispers. The undying lands are not forbidden, they are yours by right. And Ar-Pharazôn, whose heart has long questioned the ban, hears not deception but truth. Sauron's power is not in his strength, for he is bound. It is not in his sorcery, for he wields none. His power is in his knowing the heart of Númenor, its fears, its hungers, its silences. He sees the doubt that has grown in the shadow of the White Tree, the pride that has turned love to ambition, the fear that has made mortality a curse. He does not force, he persuades. He does not command, he suggests. And in his suggestions the Númenorians find the voice they have already heard, within the whisper that has become a song, the song that has become a call to power. Consider the people of Númenor gathered in the squares of Romena and Andunia, their faces alight with a new fervor. They have heard the king's proclamations inspired by Sauron's counsel. They have seen the fleets grow their sails bold, their prows carved with symbols of conquest. They have listened to the priests newly risen under Sauron's influence, who speak not of Ilúvatar, but of a destiny forged by mortal hands. The White Tree still stands, but its shadow is long, and fewer kneel before it. The people ask, why should we fear the Valar? Why should we die when eternity is within our grasp? The call to power is seductive, for it promises not only glory but escape from the silence that haunts, from the mortality that binds. Yet not all hearts are swayed. In the west, in Undune, the faithful remain those who still honor the Valar, who still sing the songs of Ilúvatar. Their lord Amandil walks among them, his eyes heavy with sorrow but unclouded by pride. They gather beneath the stars, their voices soft, their prayers a defiance of the growing dark. They look to the White Tree and see not a relic but a living bond, a reminder of the light they were given, not the light they might seize. They hear Sauron's words, but they do not listen. They feel the call to power, but they do not answer. Theirs is a silence of faith, a choice to trust when the world turns. What is faith, if not the courage to stand in the shadow and still see the light? The faithful are not mighty, not in the way of Ar-Pharazôn's fleets or Sauron's words. They are not many, their numbers dwindling as the king's power grows. Yet their strength is in their stillness, their power in their refusal. They do not seek eternity, for they know it is not theirs to claim. They do not defy the ban, for they know it is a gift, not a chain. They kneel beneath the White Tree, and in their kneeling they defy the voice that sings of power. But their defiance is lonely, and the shadow does not pause. Sauron rises no longer a prisoner, but a counselor. His chains cast aside his influence, a tide that sweeps through Númenor. He stands at the king's side, his words shaping the heart of the island. Temples rise not to Ilúvatar, but to a new worship, a worship of strength, of dominion, of the self. The White Tree is no longer honored. It is tolerated, a relic of a weaker age. The songs of Amandil are forgotten, replaced by anthems of conquest. The sea, once a path to wisdom, is now a road to rebellion, its waves chanting not of hope, but of ambition. Sauron does not rule, he guides, and in his guidance Númenor turns fully toward the west, not in reverence, but in hunger. Let us linger here in the heart of this turning. Imagine a young man born in the shadow of Ar-Pharazôn's reign, standing in the temple where Sauron's priests offer sacrifices to a new god. The air is thick with incense, the chants are loud, but his heart is troubled. He remembers the tales his grandmother told of Elros, and the valor of a time when Númenor was a light, not a fire. He sees the White Tree neglected, its petals trampled, and he wonders, is this our destiny, to seize what was forbidden, to become what we despise? The voice of Sauron is strong, but the silence of his own heart is stronger. He does not yet know it, but he is one of the faithful, and his choice will shape the ages. Temptation is a song that drowns all others, but it cannot silence the soul. Sauron's words are a melody of power, but they are not the only music. The faithful sing still, their voices soft, but unbroken their prayers, a thread that holds the light. They are not heroes in the way of kings or warriors. They are keepers of a truth older than pride, deeper than ambition. They know that mortality is not a curse, but a gift, a song with an end beautiful because it does not linger. They know that the light of Aman is not theirs to claim, but to honor, and in their knowing they stand against the tide. Yet the tide is strong, and Númenor is carried by it. Ar-Pharazôn, with Sauron at his side, dreams of a fleet that will defy the Valar, a voyage that will claim the undying lands. The shipyards roar with activity, the forges blaze with new blades, the people chant with a fervor that masks their fear. The White Tree is a shadow now, its roots choked by the stones of new temples. The stars still shine, but their light is ignored, for the eyes of Númenor are fixed on the west, where Sauron promises eternity. The question lingers, was the fall foretold? Not in the coming of Sauron, nor in the words he speaks, but in the heart that chooses to listen. Consider the sea, its waves crashing against the cliffs of Númenor. It has seen the rise of the island, the glory of its people, the light they carried. Now it sees the shadow, the pride, the hunger. It chants still its voice unchanged, but the heart of Númenor no longer hears its song. The faithful hear it, and they know that the sea is not a path to power, but a mirror of truth. They know that the light they were given was never meant to be seized, but to be shared. They know that the fall is coming not as a punishment, but as a consequence. This is the hour of choice, the moment when the heart of Númenor stands at the edge of the abyss. The white tree trembles, the stars watch, the sea waits. Sauron's voice is a song of power, but it is not the only song. The faithful sing of faith, of trust, of a light that does not fade. The king dreams of conquest, but the faithful dream of hope. The question remains, was the fall foretold? It was foretold in the heart, where every song is heard, where every choice is made. To listen to the shadow is to turn from the light. To turn from the light is to choose the dark. The tale does not end here, but darkens. The shadow rises, the voice of Sauron grows, and the heart of Númenor prepares for its final defiance. The sea roars, the stars fade, and the white tree weeps. What does it mean to choose when the world sings of power? The answer lies not in the west, but within. And so we pause here in the shadow of Númenor, knowing that the reckoning is near, not as a storm, but as a choice. The light dims, the silence breaks, and the story continues. What does it mean to sail against the stars, to raise sails not for discovery, but for defiance, to chase a light not given, but demanded in the heart of Númenor, where the white tree withers, and the sea roars with a fury that mirrors the soul? The light is all but gone, swallowed by a fire of ambition. The stars above, once guides, now watch in silence, their song drowned by the clamor of a people who would be gods. Was the fall of Númenor foretold? Not in the waves that crash or the winds that howl, but in the heart that chooses to break the world for a dream of eternity, in the moment when faith is cast aside and pride becomes a blade. The glory of Númenor is a fading echo, its golden age buried beneath the weight of its own desires. The Dúnedain, once bearers of wisdom, now wield power as a right. Their hearts turn fully to the west, not in reverence but in hunger. The ban of the Valar, that sacred boundary forbidding the sail to Aman, is no longer a law but a challenge, a chain to be shattered. The White Tree Nimloth stands in the courtyard of Ar-Menellos. Its branches bear its roots choked by the stones of temples, raised to a new worship. The voice of Sauron, once a whisper, now thunders through the land, and at its heart stands Ar-Pharazôn, the golden king whose dream of immortality will break the sea itself. Imagine standing upon the cliffs of Romena, the eastern port where the air trembles with the sound of hammers and the cries of men. The shipyards blaze with fire, their forges crafting a fleet unlike any the world has seen. Ships with prows like dragons, sails like storm clouds, each a monument to defiance. The sea before you churns as if it knows the weight of what is coming. The people of Númenor gather, their faces alight with fervor, their voices chanting the name of Ar-Pharazôn, who has declared his will to sail to the undying lands, to claim the light of Aman, to seize eternity from the Valar themselves. The stars above are veiled, and the white tree weeps, but the king hears only the song of his own glory. This is the hour of rebellion, when the heart of Númenor turns fully from the light. It was given to the fire it would wield. Ar-Pharazôn, with Sauron at his side, stands in the great hall of Ar-Menellos, his crown a blaze of gold, his eyes burning with a vision no mortal should hold. Sauron the deceiver speaks no longer as a counselor, but as a prophet, his words a flame that consumes all doubt. The Valar are not your masters, he says, but your rivals. The undying lands are not forbidden. They are your birthright. Sail west and take what is yours. And Ar-Pharazôn, whose heart has long hungered for more than mortality, lifts his scepter and declares war on the gods. Sauron's voice is a song of power, but it is a song he does not sing alone. The priests of the new temples raised to worship strength and dominion, chant of a Númenor unbound by limits. The lords of the council, once wise, now dream of thrones that never fade. The people, once a light to the world, now clamor for a glory that will outlast the stars. The white tree is forgotten, its courtyard empty, its petals trampled underfoot. The songs of Amandil are silenced, replaced by anthems of conquest. The sea, once a path to wisdom, is now a battlefield, its waves a challenge to be met with steel and sail. Yet in this hour of darkness, a light remains. In Undune, the western haven, the faithful stand, their numbers few, their voices soft but unbroken. Amandil, their lord, walks among them, his heart heavy with the knowledge of what is to come. They gather beneath the stars, their prayers, a defiance of the shadow that grips the land. They look to the white tree, though it stands far off, and see not a relic, but a living bond, a reminder of the light they were entrusted to carry. They hear the king's proclamation, the call to sail west, but they do not answer. Theirs is a silence of faith, a refusal to trade trust for ambition, hope for power. Consider Amandil standing at the edge of the sea, his eyes fixed on the horizon. He is no king, no warrior, yet his heart is a fortress unyielding to the song of Sauron. He knows the ban of the Valar is not a chain, but a gift, a boundary that protects the order of the world. He knows the undying lands are not for mortal feet, not because they are forbidden, but because they are not home. He thinks of his son Elendil and his grandsons Isildur and Anarion, who will inherit this choice. And in the silence he hears not the voice of Sauron, but the song of Ilúvatar, faint but eternal, calling him to act, not for glory but for redemption. What is hope, if not the choice to act when all seems lost? Amandil knows the fleet of Ar-Pharazôn will sail, that the sea will bear the king's ambition to the shores of Aman. He knows the Valar will not stay silent, that the world itself may break under the weight of this defiance. Yet he does not despair. He gathers the faithful, and in secret he makes a choice that will echo through the ages. He will sail not west to challenge the Valar, but east to seek their mercy. He will plead for Númenor, for the land he loves, for the people who have turned from the light. His ship is small, his crew few, but his heart is a star that no shadow can dim. Let us walk now to the shores of Undune, where Amandil's ship prepares to sail. The night is dark, the stars hidden, the sea restless. The faithful stand in silence, their hands clasp their prayers, a whisper against the roar of the world. Amandil speaks to his son Elendil, his voice steady but heavy with sorrow. Keep the light, he says, though the world darkens. Hold the faith, though the sea breaks. The gift of Ilúvatar is not lost, even in ruin. Elendil nods, his heart a mirror of his father's, and the faithful watch as Amandil's ship fades into the night, a spark against the vastness of the sea. The fleet of Ar-Pharazôn, by contrast, is a storm of iron and fire. Thousands of ships, their sails black with pride, their prows gleaming with the promise of conquest, fill the harbors of Númenor. The king stands at the helm of his flagship, his golden armor a mockery of the light he seeks. Sauron is not with him, for the deceiver remains in Armanelos, his smile a mask that hides his triumph. The people cheer, their voices a tide that drowns the silence, their hearts alight with a dream that is not theirs. The sea groans under the weight of their ambition, and the stars turn away as if they cannot bear to watch. Imagine a sailor aboard one of these ships, his hands gripping the ropes, his eyes fixed on the west. He is no lord, no priest, but a man of Númenor, born to the sea, raised on tales of glory. He has heard Sauron's words, felt the king's fervor, believed the promise of eternity. Yet as the fleet sails, the wind cold against his face, a doubt stirs. He thinks of the white tree, its branches bare, its roots forgotten. He thinks of the stories his mother told of Elros, and the Valar of a time when Númenor was a light, not a flame. The sea chants beneath him, and in its voice he hears a warning. But the fleet sails on, and his doubt is swallowed by the roar of the world. The faithful in their hidden havens prepare for what is to come. Elendil and his sons gather their people, their ships ready to flee, not to Aman, but to Middle-earth. They know the rebellion of Ar-Pharazôn will bring ruin, that the sea will not forgive this trespass. They gather the relics of their faith, the palantiri, the seedlings of the White Tree, the songs of their fathers. They pray for Amandil, whose fate is unknown, and for Númenor, whose heart is lost. Their silence is not surrender, but strength, a refusal to let the light die, even in the shadow of doom. What is legacy, if not the light that endures beyond the fire? The faithful are not mighty, their ships not grand, their numbers not great. Yet they carry a flame that no sea can quench, a song that no storm can silence. They know that Númenor is not its towers or its fleets, but its heart, the heart that kneels, that trusts, that hopes. They know that the fall is coming not as a punishment, but as a consequence, a truth as old as the world. To seize what is not given is to lose what is held. And so they prepare not for glory, but for survival, not for eternity, but for tomorrow. The fleet of Ar-Pharazôn reaches the shores of Aman, the undying lands where no mortal has set foot. The air is heavy with light. The hills bloom with colors no eye can name. The trees sing with the memory of Telperion and Laurelin. The Valar watch their silence, a weight that presses against the world. Ar-Pharazôn steps ashore, his sword raised, his heart a furnace of pride. He declares himself king of all lands, mortal and immortal, and his men cheer their voices, a defiance of the divine. The sea is still, the stars are gone, and the world holds its breath. This is the moment of breaking, when the heart of Númenor crosses the line that cannot be uncrossed. The Valar do not strike for their power, is not in wrath, but in truth. They call to Ilúvatar, the one whose song wove the world, whose will is the root of all. And Ilúvatar answers not with words, but with a silence that shakes the foundations of the earth. The sea trembles, the sky darkens, and the light of Aman is veiled. Ar-Pharazôn's fleet, so mighty, so proud, is a speck against the vastness of what is to come. The question lingers, was the fall foretold? It was foretold in the heart that sought to be more than mortal, in the choice that turned from faith to fire. Let us stand now at the edge of Númenor, where the cliffs crumble and the sea rises. The White Tree is a shadow, its roots torn by the stones of rebellion. The stars are hidden, their light a memory. The faithful wait, their ships ready, their hearts heavy with hope and sorrow. The fleet of Ar-Pharazôn is gone, swallowed by a choice that broke the world. The sea chants its final warning, and the heart of Númenor trembles not with fear, but with the weight of its own end. The question remains, was the fall foretold? It was foretold in the silence that chose the shadow, in the light that became a flame. The tale does not end here, but breaks. The sea rises, the world changes, and the heart of Númenor faces its reckoning. The faithful sail, the stars fade, and the White Tree falls. What does it mean to hold a light when the world drowns? The answer lies not in the west, but in the east, where hope endures. And so we pause here at the edge of Númenor, knowing that the end is near, not as a defeat, but as a truth. The light dies, the sea speaks, and the story continues. What does it mean to hold a light when the world drowns, to cradle a flame fragile and flickering as the sea rises and the stars fall silent? In the heart of Númenor, where the White Tree once bloomed and the waves now scream, there is no tower left to stand, no song left to sing. The golden island gift of the Valar is a memory, its glory swallowed by the wrath of a choice too heavy to bear. Yet even in ruin, a question lingers soft as a whisper, eternal as the sea. Was the fall of Númenor foretold, not in the breaking of the earth or the cry of the heavens, but in the heart that chose to seize what was not given and in the heart that chose to trust when all was lost. The hour of Númenor's end is upon us, a moment when the world itself trembles, when the song of Ilúvatar shifts to a chord no mortal can fathom. Ar-Pharazôn, the Golden King, has sailed to Aman, his fleet, a blaze of pride, his heart, a furnace of defiance. He has set foot on the undying lands, declaring himself master of all mortal and immortal. The Valar, in their silence, have called to Ilúvatar, and the one has answered not with fire, not with sword, but with a truth that breaks the foundations of the world. The sea rises, the sky weeps, and Númenor, the star of the west, is no more. Imagine standing upon the cliffs of what was once Andunia, the western haven, now crumbling into the abyss. The air is thick with salt and sorrow. The ground shakes beneath your feet, and the sea, once a friend, now roars like a beast unchained. The towers of Armanelos, golden and proud, collapse into dust. The temples of Sauron, built on lies, are swallowed by waves that know no mercy. The White Tree Nimloth, whose roots held the memory of Valinor, is torn from the earth, its petals lost to the flood. The people of Númenor, who dreamed of eternity, cry out, but their voices are drowned by the sea's relentless hymn. The stars are gone, are veiled by a darkness that is not night, and the world changes. This is the cataclysm, the moment when the heart of Númenor meets the consequence of its rebellion. Ar-Pharazôn's fleet, so mighty, so bold, is trapped in the hills of Aman, buried by the wrath of Ilúvatar, a monument to pride that will never fade. Sauron the Deceiver escapes his spirit, fleeing to Middle-earth, his laughter a shadow that lingers. The undying lands are sundered, drawn beyond the reach of mortal sails, and the world is bent, its paths forever altered. Númenor, the gift, the dream, the light is no more, its name a wound in the heart of the sea. Yet in this hour of ruin a light endures. The faithful, led by Elendil and his sons Isildur and Anarion, have fled the island before the end. Their ships, small and unadorned, ride the crest of the waves, carried by a wind that is not of this world. They bear the relics of their faith, the Palantiri, the Seeing Stones, a seedling of the White Tree, saved by Isildur's courage, the songs of their fathers etched in their hearts. They sail east to Middle-earth, not as conquerors, not as kings, but as exiles, bearing a light that no flood can quench. The sea rages, the sky breaks, but their hearts are steady, for they carry the gift of Ilúvatar, not in pride, but in trust. Consider Elendil standing at the helm of his ship, his eyes fixed on the horizon. The island of his birth is gone, its towers drowned, its people lost. He thinks of his father Amandil, who sailed to plead for mercy and was never seen again. He thinks of his sons who will inherit this exile, this hope. The sea beneath him is a chaos of foam and fury, yet he does not falter. He knows the fall was not a punishment, but a truth. To seize what is not given is to lose what is held. He knows the light of Númenor is not in its stone or its gold, but in the heart that kneels, that trusts, that hopes. And so he sails a star against the dark, a song against the silence. Let us walk now to the shores of Middle-earth, where the faithful land their ships battered, their numbers few. The land before them is vast, its forests deep, its rivers wild. It is not Númenor, not a gift risen from the sea, but a world of shadow and struggle, where the light must be kindled anew. Elendil steps ashore, his sword at his side, his heart heavy with loss, but alight with purpose. He plants the seedling of the White Tree, a fragile hope in a land of stone. He raises the banner of the Dunedain, not in conquest but in promise. He speaks to his people, his voice a beacon. We are not lost, for we carry the light. We are not broken, for we hold the song. The faithful build anew, founding the realms of Gondor and Arnor kingdoms, born not of pride but of faith. The White Tree blooms in Minas Ithil, its petals a memory of what was and a promise of what may be. The Palantiri are set in towers, their gaze turned to the stars. to the hope that endures beyond the sea. The songs of Númenor are sung again, not in halls of gold, but in courts of stone, their melody softer but no less true. The faithful are exiles, but they are not forsaken. They are few, but they are enough. They are mortal, but their light is eternal, for it is not theirs to claim, but to share. What is legacy, if not the light that outlasts the flame? The fall of Númenor was a breaking, a wound that reshaped the world, but it was not the end. The faithful carry the heart of the island, not in its towers or its fleets, but in their choices to trust. When the world drowned, to hope; when the stars faded, to love; when the sea raged. They know that mortality is not a curse but a gift, a song with an end beautiful because it does not linger. They know that the light of Ilúvatar is not seized but received, not held but given. And in their knowing they become a light to Middle-earth, a beacon to the ages. Imagine a child of Gondor born centuries after the fall, standing beneath the White Tree in Minas Tirith. She knows the tales of Númenor, the island that shone and sank, the people who dreamed of eternity and lost their home. She knows the story of Elendil, who sailed through the storm, and Isildur, who saved the tree. She looks to the stars where Arendil's Silmaril still burns, and she wonders, what does it mean to carry a light, to live in a world of shadow yet shine? The sea is far, its chant a memory, but its truth is near. The light you bear is not your own, yet it is yours to hold, to share, to kindle. The fall of Númenor was foretold not in the stars, nor in the sea, nor in the decrees of the Valar, but in the heart that chose the shadow over the song. Yet the rise of the faithful was foretold as well, in the heart that chose the light, that trusted the gift, that sang when the world broke. The cataclysm was a truth, not a triumph, a mirror held to the human condition. To seek what is not given is to lose what is held, but to give what is held is to find what is eternal. The white tree blooms, the stars endure, and the sea, though it rages, carries the echo of a song that does not fade. Let us pause here, not at the end, but at the beginning. The tale of Númenor is a circle, a song that returns to its first note, changed but unbroken. The island is gone, its light drowned its name, a sigh in the wind. Yet the light lives in the hearts of the faithful, in the realms they build, in the hope they carry. What does it mean to be mortal in a world of light? To bear a gift that burns yet shines. The sea whispers its answer, the stars sing their truth, and the heart listens. The fall was a choice, but so is the rising. The shadow was a voice, but so is the song. The question remains eternal, unspoken. Was the fall foretold? It was foretold in the heart, where every choice is born, where every light is kindled. The sea is still, the stars are bright, and the white tree sways in the breeze. The faithful sail on, not to Aman, but to tomorrow, their ships small, their hearts vast. The light they carry is not theirs alone, yet it is theirs to share. And so the song fades, not into silence, but into memory, a melody that lingers, a truth that endures. The world is bent, the sea is wide, but the light remains, and the story continues.